The piercing crack of a door slamming shut echoed through the small farmhouse as Amelia Zimmerman stood frozen, her husband's final words still ringing in her ears. 3 years of marriage and not a single child. What good are you to me? Frederick Zimmerman had packed his belongings and left for the East, declaring their marriage void in the eyes of God, if not yet legally dissolved. Montana Territory, 1873, was unforgiving to a woman alone, especially one branded as barren. Amelia pressed a trembling hand against the rough-hewn wall of the home she'd poured her heart into, struggling to steady her breathing as tears threatened to spill. At 25, she was considered used goods by most, and now damaged ones at that. The town of Silver Creek had already begun its whispers. She'd noticed them at church last Sunday, the pitying glances, the hushed conversations that ceased when she approached. Poor Frederick, they said, tied to a woman who can't fulfill her duty. As if she hadn't prayed every night, hadn't consulted doctors and tried folk remedies that left her sick and desperate, Amelia drew herself up tall. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her broken. She had a week, perhaps 2, before Frederick's family would come for the farm. They'd made it clear they considered her presence temporary at best. The land had come from Frederick's father, it would return to the family. A barren woman had no claim to inheritance or sympathy. She packed what little belonged solely to her mother's silver hairbrush, 3 dresses, a journal half filled with dreams that now seemed foolish, and the small stash of coins she'd saved from selling extra eggs. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. By dawn the next morning, Amelia had hired a wagon to take her west. Further west meant further from judgment, or so she hoped. The driver, an old man who thankfully asked no questions, promised to take her as far as Willow Creek, a growing settlement another 3 days' journey away. New mining town, he explained gruffly. Rough place but work for those willing. Amelia nodded, clutching her small bag. I'm willing, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. The journey was punishing. Spring mud sucked at the wagon wheels and cold rain soaked through her woolen coat. At night, huddled beneath a canvas tarp, Amelia wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. But the thought of returning to Silver Creek, to those whispers and pitying looks, steeled her resolve. Willow Creek appeared suddenly on the 3rd day, a scattered collection of wooden buildings clinging to the side of a mountain. The main street was a river of mud, churned by horses and boot heels. Men miners, cowboys, and merchants dominated the thoroughfare. Amelia saw only a handful of women, most standing outside the saloon in brightly colored dresses that marked their profession clearly. Where do respectable women stay in this town? She asked the driver as he helped her down from the wagon. The old man's weathered face creased in concern. Widow Jenkins takes in boarders, end of the street. Tell her Tom Bradley sent you. He hesitated, then pressed a coin into her hand. For luck, madam. Amelia swallowed hard, thanking him with a nod as she squared her shoulders and made her way down the bustling street. Men's eyes followed her. A new woman in town was worth noting, but she kept her gaze forward, ignoring the crude comments and invitations. Widow Jenkins proved to be a sharp-eyed woman of about 50, who looked Amelia up and down critically before agreeing to rent her a small room at the back of her boarding house. Looking for work? She asked bluntly, leading Amelia up a narrow staircase. Yes. I can cook, clean, so doctor's looking for help, Widow Jenkins interrupted. Wife died last winter, needs someone to keep his books, mind the office, respectable position. She gave Amelia another appraising look. You got schooling? 8 years, and my father taught me accounting. Good enough, I'll tell him you'll call tomorrow. The room was spare but clean, a narrow bed, a washstand, a small table with a chipped pitcher and bowl. After the wagon journey, it seemed like luxury. Amelia washed away the trail dust as best she could, changed her dress, and allowed herself a moment of relief. She had shelter, a potential position, and her dignity still intact. It was more than she dared hope for, Doctor. Michael Porter was an exhausted man of 45 with kind eyes and a perpetual furrow between his brows. His office, attached to his home at the edge of town, was cluttered but meticulously clean. "Mrs. Jenkins speaks highly of you," he said, studying Amelia from behind his desk. "And I'm in dire need of help. Are you squeamish, Mrs. Zimmerman?" "Miss," she corrected automatically, then flushed. "That is, I was married, but no need to explain," he said gently. "Plenty come west leaving something behind." Relief flooded through her. "I'm not squeamish, doctor. I helped birth calves on our farm and tended injured farm hands." "Good. Mining towns see plenty of injuries. You'll need to assist occasionally, keep my supplies organized, manage appointments and accounts." He named a monthly salary that, while modest, would cover her room and board with some to spare. "When can you start?" "Immediately," Amelia said, already removing her gloves. The work was demanding but satisfying. "Doctor." Porter was a fair employer who valued her efficiency and calm demeanor with patience. The miners, though rough in appearance, treated her with unexpected courtesy once they understood her position. Within weeks, Amelia had established a routine and begun to feel something like peace. That peace was shattered one stormy evening when urgent pounding rattled the office door. Amelia, who had been preparing to leave for the day, opened it to find a tall man supporting another who was bleeding profusely from a gash across his torso. "Doctor here." The tall one demanded, his voice deep and strained with effort. "In back," Amelia answered, immediately helping to shoulder the injured man's weight. "This way." The examination room was ready. Amelia had learned to keep it prepared for emergencies. "Doctor." Porter emerged from his private quarters, took one look at the situation, and began barking orders. Amelia moved efficiently, cutting away the bloody shirt, preparing instruments, mixing a solution of carbolic acid for cleaning the wound. Only when the injured man was stabilized, stitched, and resting did Amelia turn her attention to his companion. He stood against the wall, hat in hand, watching the proceedings with intense blue eyes. His clothing marked him as a cowhand-worn denim, scuffed boots, a bandana now stained with his friend's blood, but there was something in his bearing that suggested more. "Your friend will recover," she told him, offering a clean cloth for his bloodied hands. "The wound looks worse than it is." "Thank you, madam," he said, his voice softer now, tinged with a southern accent. "Nathan Grayson, that's my foreman, Ellis." "Amelia Zimmerman," she replied, suddenly aware of how disheveled she must look, sleeves rolled up and apron stained. "I assist Dr. Porter, lucky for Ellis." His eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. "How'd a lady like you end up in Willow Creek?" Before she could formulate a response, Dr. Porter emerged from checking on Ellis. "He'll need to stay tonight. You're from the Double Circle," Nathan nodded, 20 miles southeast. "I'd be obliged if you'd send word when he can travel." "Mrs. Zimmerman can do that," Dr. Porter said, already preparing a dose of laudanum for the patient. "She handles all my correspondence." Nathan's eyes found hers again, curiosity evident. "I'd appreciate that, madam." After he left, Amelia found herself oddly unsettled. There had been no impropriety in his manner, nothing to explain the flutter in her stomach when their eyes had met. She pushed the feeling aside, focusing instead on helping Dr. Porter settle Ellis for the night. But Nathan Grayson returned the next day to check on Ellis, and the day after that. By the fourth day, when Ellis was declared fit enough to return to the ranch, albeit in a wagon rather than on horseback, Amelia had learned that Nathan was not merely a cowhand, but the owner of the Double Circle Ranch. He'd inherited it 2 years earlier from an uncle and turned a failing operation into one of the territory's most promising cattle ranches. "We're expanding," he told her as they waited for Dr. Porter to complete a final examination of Ellis. "Bringing in better stock, building new facilities." "It sounds like quite an undertaking for one man," Amelia observed, noting the shadows of fatigue under his eyes. "It is," he admitted, "but worth it. Land like that, it gets in your blood." She understood that sentiment all too well, thinking of the farm she'd lost. Yes, she agreed softly. It does. Something in her tone made him look at her more closely. You had land once, my husband did, she corrected, the words bitter on her tongue. In Silver Creek. Nathan seemed about to ask more, but Dr. Porter emerged with Ellis and the moment passed. As they prepared to leave, Nathan turned to Amelia. The double circle has an accounting problem that needs sorting. Books haven't been properly kept since my uncle fell ill. Dr. Porter speaks highly of your abilities in that area. Would you consider riding out to help? I'd pay fair wages, of course. The invitation caught her by surprise. Women didn't typically work at cattle ranches unless they were family or in the kitchen. I have responsibilities here. 1 day a week would suffice, he pressed. Saturdays, perhaps, when the doctor's office is closed. I'd send a wagon for you. Dr. Porter, overhearing, nodded encouragingly. It would be a good arrangement, Mrs. Zimmerman. Additional income is always useful, and the double circle has a reputation as a respectable operation. Amelia hesitated, weighing propriety against practicality. The extra money would help her build savings faster, and if Dr. Porter approved, very well, Mr. Grayson. I'll come this Saturday to assess the situation. Nathan's smile transformed his weathered face. I'm much obliged, madam. The wagon will be here at 7. True to his word, a wagon arrived promptly at 7 o'clock that Saturday morning. The driver was a grizzled older man who introduced himself as Hank, the ranch cook and general caretaker. Boss is mighty particular about getting them books straight, Hank commented as they left town behind. Never seen a cattleman care so much about paperwork. A successful business requires good records, Amelia replied, though she too found it unusual. The double circle revealed itself gradually as they crested a hill, a sprawling operation nestled in a verdant valley. The main house was modest but solid, flanked by a bunkhouse, barn, and various outbuildings. Men worked in the corrals and fields, evidence of the expansion Nathan had mentioned. Nathan himself emerged from the house as the wagon approached, striding forward to help Amelia down with a courteous hand. Welcome to Double Circle, Mrs. Zimmerman. I hope the journey wasn't too taxing. Not at all, she assured him, taking in the ranch with appreciative eyes. You've built something impressive here. Pride flashed across his face. Still building. Come, I'll show you where the ledgers are kept. The ranch office was a small room adjoining the main house, cluttered with papers, maps, and various tools of the ranching trade. A large desk dominated the space, its surface barely visible beneath stacks of invoices, receipts, and correspondence. As you can see, Nathan said with a rueful smile, I'm better with cattle than columns. Amelia approached the desk, already assessing the chaos. When was the last time these accounts were balanced, properly? Before my uncle took ill, about 3 years ago. She looked at him in dismay. 3 years, he had the grace to look embarrassed. I've recorded income and expenses mostly, but organizing it all. He gestured helplessly at the mess. This will take more than 1 Saturday, she warned. I'm counting on it, he replied with a smile that caused that strange flutter in her stomach again. Shall we begin? They worked through the morning, Nathan explaining his rudimentary system while Amelia sorted documents into meaningful piles. By midday, when Hank brought lunch, she had begun to grasp the scope of the problem and formulate a plan to address it. You need proper ledgers organized by category, she told Nathan as they ate on the porch, taking advantage of the spring sunshine. And a system for recording new transactions immediately, not weeks later. I suspected as much, he admitted, but it's good to hear it from someone who knows. Amelia hesitated, then asked the question that had been nagging at her. Mr. Grayson, why did you really ask me here? Surely there are bookkeepers in town more qualified. Nathan set down his plate, his expression turning serious. There are, but none I trust. He met her eyes directly. Doctor Porter says you're honest and discreet. Those qualities matter more to me than expertise with numbers, though he assures me you have that too. Why would discretion matter for ranch accounts? He glanced around, ensuring no ranch hands were within earshot. Because the double circle is doing better than I let on. Much better. And I have plans that require keeping that success quiet for now. I see. She didn't, not entirely, but the earnestness in his expression convinced her he wasn't engaged in anything illicit. Well, your secret prosperity is safe with me, Mr. Grayson. Nathan, he corrected gently. If we're to work together, I'd prefer less formality. She should have declined, maintained the professional distance propriety demanded, but something in his eyes, a warmth, a respect, made her nod. Amelia, then. They returned to work until late afternoon when Nathan insisted on showing her the ranch. As they walked among the buildings and corrals, his passion for the land and his vision for its future became increasingly evident. He spoke of breeding programs, water management, new grazing techniques, innovations that marked him as forward-thinking in an industry often resistant to change. My uncle ran this place the same way for 40 years, he explained as they paused by a creek that cut through the property. Nearly ruined it, but I see what it could be. A home, Amelia said softly, understanding the look in his eyes as he surveyed his land. He turned to her, surprised. Yes, exactly that, not just a business. The moment stretched between them, comfortable yet charged with something neither acknowledged. Finally, Nathan cleared his throat. It's getting late. Hank should have the wagon ready. True to her word, Amelia returned the following Saturday and the one after that. The double circle's accounts gradually took shape under her methodical approach. Nathan proved to be a quick study, adopting her systems and implementing her suggestions without resistance. Their working relationship developed an easy rhythm, punctuated by shared meals and conversations that increasingly strayed beyond ranch business. During her fourth visit, as spring blossomed fully into summer, Nathan confessed the true extent of his ambitions. He wasn't just rebuilding the double circle, he was positioning it to become one of the largest operations in the territory. I've been buying land quietly, he explained, showing her a map where he'd marked recent acquisitions. The railroad's coming through next year, 10 miles south. Everyone's focused there, but I know this northern valley has better water access. Amelia studied the map, impressed by his foresight. You're thinking well beyond cattle. Settlements will follow the railroad. They'll need food, lumber, everything a growing population requires. His eyes shone with excitement. I'm not just building a ranch, Amelia. I'm building a future. The passion in his voice stirred something deep within her, a longing she'd thought died when Frederick walked out. To believe in possibilities, to plan for tomorrow with hope rather than fear. It's a wonderful vision, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. One that needs more than just me to fulfill. Before either could say more, Hank knocked on the office door, breaking the moment. Storm's brewing, boss. Might want to get Mrs. Zimmerman back to town before it hits. The ride to town was tense with unspoken words, the gathering clouds mirroring the turbulence in Amelia's thoughts. Nathan insisted on accompanying her, leaving Ellis in charge of securing the ranch against the approaching storm. They were halfway to Willow Creek when the skies opened. Rain lashed the wagon as thunder rolled across the valley. Nathan urged the horses faster, but within minutes they were soaked through. There's a line shack ahead, he shouted over the storm's fury. We can wait it out there. The shack was little more than 4 walls and a roof, used by cowhands during roundup. Nathan quickly lit a small stove while Amelia wrung water from her skirts. The sudden intimacy of the situation alone with a man in a remote cabin would have scandalized Silver Creek, but Amelia found she cared less about such judgments with each passing day. You'll catch your death, Nathan said, offering her a rough blanket from a shelf. Here. Their fingers brushed as she accepted it, sending warmth through her despite her sodden clothes. Thank you. He busied himself making coffee on the small stove, giving her privacy to arrange the blanket around her shoulders. When he turned back, 2 steaming cups in hand, his expression had grown serious. Amelia, there's something I've been wanting to ask you, her heart quickened. Yes. What brought you to Willow Creek, really? He handed her a cup, his eyes never leaving her face. You've helped me sort through my past. Perhaps I can help with yours. The kindness in his voice undid her carefully maintained composure. Before she realized it, the whole story spilled out: Frederick's abandonment, the whispers in Silver Creek, the shame of being cast aside for failing at what should have come naturally to any woman. 3 years we tried, she said, staring into her coffee. Each month that passed, he grew more resentful, as if I chose to be Barren. Her voice broke on the word. Nathan set his cup down and moved to sit beside her on the crude bench. Some men are fools, he said softly, valuing a woman only for what she can give them, not for who she is. And who am I? Amelia asked, the question that had haunted her since Frederick's departure. If not a wife, not a mother, what purpose do I serve? You're Amelia, he answered simply, taking her hand in his. The most capable, intelligent, compassionate woman I've ever known. A woman who faced adversity with courage, who rebuilt her life when others would have crumbled. His eyes held hers, intense with conviction. Your worth isn't in what you can or cannot do, it's in who you are. Something broke inside her, then not in devastation, but in release. Tears she'd held back for months flowed freely as Nathan gently pulled her into his arms. He held her until the storm passed, both outside the cabin and within her heart. When they finally returned to town, something fundamental had changed between them. Amelia continued her Saturday visits to the Double Circle, but now Nathan found reasons to come to town during the week as well. He would stop by Dr. Porter's office with questions about the accounts that could easily have waited, bringing small gifts, fresh fruit from the ranch's orchard. A book he thought she might enjoy. Wildflowers gathered along the trail. Dr. Porter observed these developments with quiet amusement. Mr. Grayson seems to have a great many accounting emergencies lately, he commented one afternoon after Nathan had departed. Amelia blushed but didn't deny the implication. He's very dedicated to his business. And increasingly dedicated to my assistant, Dr. Porter replied kindly. He's a good man, Amelia, better than most in these parts. By midsummer, their courtship was the subject of gentle gossip in Willow Creek. Unlike the cruel whispers of Silver Creek, these speculations were largely approving. Nathan Grayson was respected, and Amelia had earned her own place in the community through her work with Dr. Porter. It was during a community gathering for Independence Day that Nathan finally declared his intentions publicly. As fireworks exploded overhead, he led Amelia away from the crowd to a quiet spot overlooking the creek that gave the town its name. I've been thinking about the future, he began, his usual confidence tempered with nervous energy. About the Double Circle and what it could become. Amelia nodded, her heart racing. Your plans are sound, the expansion is proceeding well. But it's empty, he said suddenly, taking her hands in his. All of it, the land, the house, the dreams for what comes next, it's empty without someone to share it with. His eyes searched hers. Someone like you, she couldn't breathe. Nathan, I love you, Amelia, not for what you can give me, but for who you are, your strength, your wisdom, your heart. He squeezed her hands gently. I know your past makes you cautious. I know you fear being valued only for possibilities that might not come, but that's not why I'm asking. Asking, he drew a deep breath. Will you marry me, Amelia? Will you make the Double Circle our home, whatever the future brings? Tears blurred the fireworks into streaks of light across the sky. You should know, she whispered, that doctors have told me I may never bear children. And you should know, he countered, cupping her face in his hands, that you're already the mother of my hope. Every dream I have for the future has your name written into it. Children or no children, you're the family I choose. In that moment, the last chains of her past fell away. She saw in Nathan's eyes not the desperate need for an heir that had consumed Frederick, but genuine love for her, exactly as she was. Yes, she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. Yes, I will marry you, I will share your home and your dreams. Their wedding took place in September as summer yielded to autumn. Dr. Porter gave Amelia away, and the entire town of Willow Creek turned out to celebrate. Even Widow Jenkins dabbed at suspiciously moist eyes as the couple exchanged vows. Life at the double circle adjusted to include a mistress. Amelia brought order not just to the accounts but to the household, transforming the bachelor's quarters into a true home. Nathan watched her flourish with pride, never once mentioning children or heirs, focusing instead on building their shared vision for the ranch's future. Winter came early that year, with heavy snows isolating the ranch for days at a time. Amelia discovered unexpected joy in the quiet evenings by the fire, Nathan reading aloud while she sewed or worked on the meticulous records that had become her domain. They learned each other in these peaceful moments, building a foundation of friendship beneath their love. It was during one such evening as Christmas approached that Amelia set aside her ledger with a thoughtful expression. "I've been calculating something," she said carefully. Nathan looked up from his book. "Oh, a problem with the accounts, not exactly." She moved to sit beside him, her expression a mixture of wonder and trepidation, more a matter of timing. He set the book aside, giving her his full attention. "What timing?" "My monthly courses," she said, color rising in her cheeks despite their intimacy. "They've always been regular even during my previous marriage, but now they're late, by several weeks." Nathan stared at her, comprehension slowly dawning. "Amelia, are you saying—" "I'm not certain," she cautioned quickly. It could be the change in circumstances, the move, winter coming on, but her voice caught. "But I think it might be possible that I'm with child." He didn't speak for a long moment, and fear gripped her heart. Had she been wrong about him? Would the possibility of an heir change how he saw her, reduce her again to a means of continuing his name? Then he knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "Amelia," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "if it's true, I'll be overjoyed, but not because it changes who you are to me." He pressed a kiss to her palm. "You gave me hope long before this possibility. You are my family, child or no child." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she leaned forward to kiss him. "How did I find you?" "We found each other," he corrected gently, "and whatever comes next, we face it together." Spring brought confirmation of what winter had suggested. Dr. Porter, visiting the ranch to deliver a baby for one of the cowhands' wives, examined Amelia and confirmed she was indeed expecting. The child would arrive in early summer. As her body changed, Amelia sometimes found herself gripped by fear. What if, after everything, she lost this baby? What if her body, which had failed her before, failed her again? Nathan noticed her worry and addressed it directly one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "You're thinking about Silver Creek," he said, his hand covering hers on her growing belly. "About what they said," she nodded, unable to deny it. "What if they were right? What if there's something wrong with me?" "Then we'll weather that storm too," he said firmly. "But Amelia, have you considered that perhaps the problem wasn't with you at all?" She looked at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" Dr. Porter mentioned once that these matters aren't always the woman's difficulty. He chose his words carefully. "Sometimes men carry the issue, though few will admit it." The possibility had never occurred to her. Frederick had been so certain, so accusatory. "You think, I think," Nathan said, kissing her temple, "that whatever happened before doesn't matter now. We're writing our own story, Amelia. Past chapters don't determine how it ends." On a bright June morning in 1874, almost exactly a year after Amelia had first arrived in Willow Creek, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Nathan paced outside their bedroom as Dr. Porter attended her, the ranch hands casting nervous glances toward the house as their normally composed boss wore a path in the porch boards. When the cry of a newborn finally pierced the air, Nathan stopped mid-stride. Moments later, Dr. Porter opened the door, his weary face split with a smile. "Congratulations, Mr. Grayson, you have a beautiful daughter." Nathan entered the bedroom to find Amelia propped against pillows, a small bundle cradled in her arms. She looked up at him with tired eyes shining with joy. "Come meet your daughter," she whispered. He moved to the bedside, gazing down at the tiny face with wonder. "She's perfect," he breathed, sitting carefully beside them. Just like her mother, Amelia leaned against his shoulder, contentment washing through her exhaustion. "I never thought I'd have this," she admitted. "Not just a child, but this feeling, like I've finally found where I belong." Nathan's arm encircled her gently. "You belong here, Amelia, you always will." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "What shall we call her?" Amelia looked down at their daughter, thinking of the journey that had brought her to this moment. From being cast aside as worthless to being cherished for herself, from barrenness to abundance not just in motherhood but in purpose and love. "Hope," she said softly. "Let's call her Hope." Nathan smiled, understanding the significance. "Hope Grayson," he agreed, "a perfect name for a new beginning." As the summer days lengthened, Amelia found herself sitting on the porch in the evenings, Hope sleeping in her arms while Nathan worked nearby, planning the next phase of the ranch's expansion. Looking out over the land that had become truly hers, she marveled at life's unexpected turns. She had lost everything only to gain more than she'd ever imagined. The woman once deemed worthless had found her value not in what she could provide, but in who she was. And in being loved for herself alone, she had discovered the capacity to give more than she'd known she possessed. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Amelia smiled, watching the sunset paint their land in gold. "About hope," she answered, "and how sometimes it finds you when you least expect it." He moved to sit beside her, his arm encircling her shoulders as they gazed out at the future. They were building together a future no longer defined by what was missing, but by what they had created from love.